It was an emotional night in the state capital of Ohio as the Panthers and Blue Jackets honored Johnny Gaudreau. The Panthers finished the road trip strong, and Spencer Knight bounced back after a rough start.
You're Locked On Panthers, your daily podcast on the Florida Panthers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And welcome into this Wednesday, October 16th edition of the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. Thank you for making the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast your first listen of the day. I'm Armando Velez from the Hockey News. You can follow me on X at Monoman12. Follow the show account on X and Instagram at LO_FLA Panthers. And shout out to the everydayers who come back here and get your daily Florida Panthers fix. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. So the Florida Panthers came into this one on the second end of a back-to-back once again without Matthew Tkachuk and Aleksander Barkov. But the focus on this night was to honor Johnny Gaudreau and Matthew for the Columbus Blue Jackets and the Florida Panthers. But as far as the gameplay, after a scoreless first period, the Columbus Blue Jackets score within a minute of the second period. The Panthers bounce back. After multiple ties for the Panthers and Blue Jackets after scoring at the end of the second period, the Panthers got an insurance goal, played lockdown defense, and got a 4-3 win after the Columbus Blue Jackets had a little bit of a push at the end. Spencer Knight with 35 saves on the evening after bouncing back after a rough start in Buffalo in his previous outing, as the Panthers now finish the road trip at 500, 3-2-0 on the season as they return home on Thursday night. But joining me on this edition of the show to break this down and more, it is a Winans Wednesday edition of the show, which means Jacob Winans is back here. And Jacob, we've had quite a few of our exciting podcasts on Winans Wednesdays. We saw a banner raising ceremony just last week to discuss the Panthers championship, but we saw another banner raised this time in tragedy with the death of Johnny Gaudreau. And that's not even, it's crazier that I'm going there with the start of the talking about the ceremony, but just the outpouring of love from the Florida Panthers and the Columbus Blue Jackets, with the Panthers coming to the arena with purple Gatorade and Skittles, which was the idea of Matthew Tkachuk. Unfortunately, he couldn't be in the building, but and the ceremony with Sam Bennett and Adam Boquist on the Panthers side of things, of them being up front to welcome in the family of the Gaudreaus, just was reminded of just, even though this was 2 months ago, Jacob, it's still really hard to process for everybody involved. And even though it's the official first home game, it's not something that you can just get over so quickly.
Yeah, it was hard to watch. That's the main thing. It was beautiful in many ways, but it was also very painful to watch because you can't help but be reminded that it's their home opener, and their best player and the heart and soul of that team, and just such an important piece of the hockey community is not there to play. And that hurts a lot, and that's hard for a lot of people to deal with. And I feel like everyone felt it. And as Panther fans, we know that feeling a little bit. It's definitely not the same, but the closest thing that I could be reminded of was the Panthers' first home game after the Stoneman Douglas tragedy, and how emotional that building was, how weird it felt to even be having a hockey game. At times you almost forgot that you were in that building for a hockey game. And it felt the same in a lot of ways. It felt the same, very similar to the first NBA games after the passing of Kobe Bryant. The tributes and just the way it was, everyone was hurt so deeply, but everyone wanted to celebrate the life and legacy by playing the game that that everyone loves. And I think that's what both teams tried to do tonight. You could tell it was uncomfortable. It was a very eerie feeling. It was a strange feeling. It was very hard to watch, but at the same time, it was beautiful how they honored him, how they honored Johnny and Matthew, and it was beautiful how they honored his family. And it is a reminder that this is just a game, and there are lives behind this game that are much more important than the game. But it's also the game that brings everyone together, and it's the game that allows someone like Johnny Gaudreau to reach so many people and touch so many lives. So it was beautiful to see him honored the way he was, and I think both teams did it with class. Nothing felt forced, nothing felt tacky. It was truly, genuinely love for the Gaudreaus and doing everything they could to honor him, his brother, and their legacy. So I have mixed feelings on it. I feel like everyone does, because there's a lot of sadness and a lot of pain, but there's also a lot of love and a lot of respect, and there was a beauty to it as well.
Yeah, you said it best there with the beauty of the ceremony. And then you think of Sean Monahan holding the child of Johnny Gaudreau, his firstborn, and then having his brother-in-law there to walk with his sister Meredith, and then the video of Johnny Gaudreau, and then just everything from mixed up with Calgary and Columbus about his size and having to play up. And then the very first photo of Guy Gaudreau within a week of him being born, he's carrying him on the ice. And then that same thing they showed later in the tribute of Johnny doing the same thing with his son. So of course that was by design on that one, just to show how much the love of the game is passed down from generation to generation there for the family. And then the game start, the 13 seconds of you see Sam Bennett on one end, Sean Monahan on the other. The left wing spot is left empty, and then the players and the referee allowing 13 seconds to go off the clock, and just everyone cheering for this. And then when the game started, for the first 5 or 6 minutes, it's silent in that arena, because to go from the ceremony to then trying to cheer, there was a Johnny Hockey chant, but then once there was actual game action, after all the emotions pouring, how do you go from that to yelling "Let's go Jackets" or the CBJ immediately? So there was still the processing of that ceremony that we saw and even for the energy of the players as well in the first few minutes that we saw for that. And that's really how we saw it affect them, even in the first few minutes.
Yeah, the first few minutes, like I said earlier, it felt a lot like the beginning of the Panthers versus Capitals game at home after the Stoneman Douglas tragedy, and it felt like that the building was, I won't say lifeless, but the building was almost stuck in a moment of silence. And then in that game, I believe it was Maxime Mammon who scored his first NHL goal, and finally was able to sort of bring people into the hockey, and remind people that that it's a hockey game, and you're allowed to experience the hockey game. You can cheer, you can enjoy the sport in front of you, because that's what you're there for at the end of the night. And I think that's what kind of happened in this game. It took a few minutes, but then I felt like the fans were sort of reminded and were pulled and drawn into the game, the sport that brings everybody together here, and they were able to enjoy the hockey game, which is what you want. Especially in a home opener, you want to honor the Gaudreaus. You want to share that love and honor the legacy, but you also want to enjoy and experience hockey, and that's I feel like that's everything that the Gaudreaus would have wanted in that moment. So I was happy with how it turned out, and I'm sure we'll touch on this in the game recap portion of the show tonight. But Sean Monahan scoring a goal in this game, and pointing to the banner hanging in the arena, that almost brought tears to my eyes. And I feel like that was meant to happen, win or lose for Columbus. You just knew Monahan had to score a goal tonight, and it was awesome to see him get one. Even though it put the Panthers behind at the time, it was awesome to see him get a goal and celebrate the way he did. Can't imagine the emotions he was feeling as he scored that goal, but that that was a special moment tonight.
We felt it tonight. We felt it with Cole Caulfield scoring on his in the first game for the Habs against the Maple Leafs last week, and then, at the end of the day, after all the ceremonies, it's like you said, it's what the Gaudreaus wanted, and even Meredith said it in her tribute video, saying, "quote Let's all enjoy the game that John loved." But we are going to actually talk about the game in segments number 2 and 3, where we are going to recap it all on this Florida Panthers 4-3 victory on the road against the Columbus Blue Jackets, and how the game flow went, and the fact that Anton Lundell and Sam Reinhart once again stepped up for the Cats. We are going to discuss that more next here on the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. And Game Time has a new feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets for your favorite live event even easier. And the Game Time Picks curation makes it easier to save more on sports like comedy, theater, sports, and more. The seat views, you could get a panoramic view from your seat in the app before you buy. The lowest price guarantee or Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. Game Time ticket coverage, your purchase is covered with the most flexible customer service policy in the ticket industry. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDON NHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem code LOCKEDON NHL for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game Time. Also, today's episode is brought to you by Prize Picks. And you can now win 100 times your money on Prize Picks with as little as 4 correct picks. Prize Picks is the best place to get real money in sports. Join over 10 million users and sign up today. Prize Picks puts its number first, so with all the withdrawal fast, safe, and secure. When my picks hit, I can get all my money fast. Sign up today and get a $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. Prize Picks also offers weekly promotions that can lead to big payouts, like Taco Tuesday. Each Tuesday, Prize Picks discounts each player projections up to 25% to provide more value in your lineups. And also, you could do that, and you could download the app, use code LOCKEDONNHL, and you'll get $50 off, $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. And you can do that all at Prize Picks. Run your game. And I'd like to thank you guys once again for making the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast your first listen of the day here on a Wednesday edition of the show, a Winans Wednesday edition, where the Florida Panthers are coming off a 4-3 victory against the Columbus Blue Jackets, where second end of a back-to-back, no Aleksander, Barkov, and Matthew Tkachuk once again. And the Panthers really stepped up in this one, where really for the Panthers, it was really after the second TV timeout where they were starting to just get their game going for them in this one. But then really the Panthers having 3 special teams opportunities, and really for them, it really started with losing key draws each and every time they had a power play, which was their 3 power plays to start of the game. Really, that's it. That's all that they got in the game, and really their inability to get set in their own end and create, and also get the pucks in deep and battle it out. But also really for the Columbus Blue Jackets, their ability to get out the zone cleanly, not get in on their forecheck, really hurt the Panthers in this one, as they also were getting up the ice. I felt like Zach Werenski got so many shot opportunities on the night, but the Panthers and Spencer Knight were able to hang in tight. But also an errant pass from Evan Rodriguez resulted in a shorthanded goal. Now the Panthers' second shorthanded goal against on the season, but also multiple goals on the night, where the first one, a little bit of a battle. Puck bounces. Reinhart gives it back to Lundell, scores, and then the other one where Kulikov, Reinhart originally had the second goal. Anton Lundell creates on the forecheck in that one, and then shot from Kulikov is a little bit of a knuckler and gets it in. That was for the Panthers' second goal, and then in the final few seconds of the the second period, puck in deep, little bit of a tap from Bennett Verhaeghe to Rhino, gets it in, and that's all with at points the Panthers going on a little bit of droughts of getting shots on net with, once again, like we said, breakouts. But the Panthers, they got quality over quantity on a lot of their opportunities on the night, and it really started with just their ability to just also get in front of the net and block shots, which we're going to discuss more about other guys who have had great nights. I also felt that Adam Boquist really set the tone offensively early with pinching in, getting the 5-shot attempts, and also stopping a big 3-on-1 where the Panthers were getting a little confused on their end. So I thought that the Panthers, they really managed through of getting their quality over quantity.
Yeah, I agree. Especially the Lundell, Luosterainen, and Reinhart line. I think they've looked really, really good. They looked fantastic even, and I think the chemistry is there right now. That's without a doubt the Panthers' best line so far through 5 games, and it's a line that's been put together out of necessity with injuries. Barkov goes down, Tkachuk is sick. You got to put a line together that's reliable, that can get you production. And we know Reinhart's going to produce. That's not a surprise. On both ends, he's become one of the best defensive forwards in hockey. He's playing defense. He's scoring shorties. He's scoring power play goals. He's producing on offense. He's getting the assists. But what's really impressed me is the apparent growth of Lundell in the shortened offseason. He looks assertive. He looks strong. He looks fast. He looks like a line driver more than a line passenger right now. And he's known to be streaky. But what we haven't really seen from Lundell in his short career so far in the NHL, we haven't seen him really start a season hot yet. He's a guy who tends to take some time to get going. He usually finds his stride by midseason, starts to really turn it up by the end of the season, and then plays really well in the postseason. That's sort of the Lundell blueprint. But for the first time, it seems like he's come out of the gates firing, and I feel like the sky's the limit right now. It's uncanny. He looks so much like Barkov right now. Maybe not quite the skater that Barkov is, not as much power in the skating, not as puck dominant, where he's just you can't take the puck from him on the boards. Barkov kind of has like grown man strength when it comes to that. Lundell just isn't. He's too young to have that yet. But you can see the signs. It's coming, and I think he looks strikingly similar to Barkov at the same age right now, which is very, very exciting for the Panthers, given that they just locked him up to the deal they did. If he keeps playing like this, that's going to be an absolute bargain. So it's at a point now where that line has played so well. I don't know if you can break them up when Chucky and Barkov are back. There's going to be some decisions that have to be made on the forward lines about how you structure that, because that line looks ridiculously good right now.
Yeah, and that was the playoff line that was strong just 2 seasons ago, and now you're thinking, hey, I mean, you also got to consider the fact that there was also another line shift with the Panthers on the night with Erod going down to the third, Mackie Samoskevich getting a chance on the Bennett line. I mean, we said, I spoke about this in our group chat, that Evan Rodriguez has been probably the least impressive forward for the Panthers so far this season. I mean, an errant pass on the power play led to a rush shorthanded, but also just losing. There was one play where he lost his edge, and Sean Monahan had another opportunity that went off the post, and also just a bit. There was another shot that he whiffed on and lost the battle in the Panthers' own offensive zone that had the Columbus Blue Jackets clear the puck. So Paul Maurice noticed that, and then Mackie Samoskevich also creating so many chances himself. There was one on the power play where at 5-on-5 where the Blue Jackets were up. They get a quick tap to Samo, and then he gets a little bit of a drive. So he's knowing more of when to find those open nets. And also there was a quick puck trickling around the corner, and then a quick feed to get to Eetu Luosterainen. But even though that one didn't necessarily connect, but still the line shift looks to have created a little bit of a spark. And you spoke about just Anton Lundell stepping up. That line the Lundell line had 0 shots on goal in the first period, and then just flip of a switch. It kind of felt like the Buffalo game all over again, with this, not necessarily in the goaltending sense, but the pace of play, where the opposition, where the Panthers were starting to gain control, but really didn't have that control, except they were able to capitalize on more of their opportunities. So that's really the game flow of what I saw from Tuesday night.
Yeah, no, I agree definitely, and a couple of things you mentioned there, especially with Evan Rodriguez. If he's playing right now as your worst forward, that's a good problem to have, because a guy like Evan Rodriguez is not going to continue to play poorly. He's a veteran. He's having a rough couple of games to start the year. Gets what seems to be a little bit of a demotion in the lines tonight. That'll wake him up. He's a veteran. He's a proven playoff performer, was a Stanley Cup hero. It's not going to shake his confidence. It's going to be a wake-up call for him, and he'll get his game going. So if he's your worst forward early on, you're in a pretty good position. But like you said with Mackey, I think it's getting close for him. You can see just through 5 games, you can see he's making quicker decisions. The puck is on and off his stick fast. He's not trying to be quite as fancy. Some of the drop passes, the cross ice stuff, he's cutting a lot of that out and just being a straight line player, using his speed. And I feel like he's also learning a little bit better how to find the shot lanes and get the shot off quick before it gets blocked. These are things that rookies have to learn with game time in the NHL. It takes time to adjust to that timing. And I feel like he's also, if you want to stay in the lineup in the Paul Maurice system, you have to forecheck. Whether you're big, strong, small, not physical, you're going to have to find a way to forecheck and make your impact felt, pressuring the D, retrieving pucks. And I think Mackey's starting to find his way with that. He's not the biggest guy, probably the Panthers' smallest forward size-wise, not overly physical naturally, but he's being a pest on the forecheck now, which is starting to create some opportunities. I think early third period, he had a very, very good shift. They pinned Columbus in the zone for a while. He had one of those late in the second period. He's starting to string together some really good shifts where he's being a workhorse on the puck. So that first goal is coming, but the creativity is there. And if Rhino is going to continue performing well with Lundell and Luosterainen, I think when Barkov and Tkachuk are back in the lineup, you got to at least consider putting Mackey with Barkov and Verhaeghe possibly, or putting him with Bennett and Tkachuk and seeing what you can get out of that, and have Barkov with Verhaeghe and Erod. It's exciting to think about, because if Mackey can play well and eventually produce, he's a guy who could fill in any of the right wing spots in that top 9. And I feel like the Panthers might be cooking with gas if they're able to get him going with one of those guys. And we've seen how dominant Rhino can be in a third line role with top special teams minutes on top of it. Those are some very, very favorable matchups you can get a 50-goal scorer into. So I think looking at that lineup when fully healthy, the Panthers might have something special again.
No doubt, and can't wait for, and the fact that they're doing this with some with a few bruises on their lineup is definitely very very encouraging, as they are hopefully one step closer to getting these guys back to full health. But we're going to transition over to segment number 3, where we're going to discuss more about our 3 stars and the moment where we thought the game was won. We're going to discuss that more next here on the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. And hey, NFL fans, you could start with the season with a big return on FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you can place your bets. You'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. Once again, you'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. You can do that all at FanDuel.com. Third and final segment here on this Wednesday, October 16th edition of the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast. Thank you once again for making the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast your first listen of the day here on a Wednesday edition of the show, where the Florida Panthers win on the road by a final score of 4-3 in regulation, now 72-0-4. when leading after 40 minutes, going back to March 7th of 2023. Still a very impressive run for these Florida Panthers. But this one for also, let's also not forget in this one, the Columbus Blue Jackets were without one of their defensemen towards the end of the game after Eric Branson, former Panther, collided with Sean Monahan in the neutral zone. So that's another thing for the Blue Jackets in their attempt to trying to make a push. But Panthers played lockdown D for at least a good 12 minutes before the Columbus Blue Jackets started to put a little bit of a push, score 6-on-5 after pressure in the offensive zone. JVR tapped it in on a feed from Severson, but still, my goodness, a really close call for the Panthers on fail clear. JVR gets a quick tap to Chinnikov, and then shot goes above the net. But even the graphics person from Script Sports thought it was a goal for the Panthers. So I'm going to start there with my third star of the game, Spencer Knight. 35 of 38, bounce back after the poor start in Buffalo. And there were times where you just needed the Spencer Knight to come out strong. Was really composed, less of not as much moving in his own net, standing still. Hugged the post pretty well for him. So for Spencer, I'm going to give him the third star of the night for the Panthers here. Second star is going to go to Anton Lundell. Almost got an assist taken away. Like I said, created two of the goals on the forecheck for him. He's my second star. He was first last night, and then reversing the stars from Reinhart being 2 yesterday to now him being number 1. Almost got 4 points, even including that after rimming around the boards on the breakout. Lundell gets it to Luosterainen. Luosterainen finishes it for his second goal of the season. So Reinhart is my number 1 star of the night for the Florida Panthers. 8 points now in 5 games for Rhino after his 57-goal season last year. And he's still on the books for 8.625 for the next 8. So great to see there. But Jacob, your 3 stars of the game, my friend.
Yeah, so my 3 stars are going to differ very slightly. So my third star is actually, I'm not going with Anton Lundell tonight. I'm going with the other Finn on that line. I thought Etu was very, very good in this game. I loved his goal. It looked like he had no idea that it even went in.
Yeah,
that was a special goal. It was really an insane shot, going top shelf, bar down. With the kind of speed he had, and then the classic finish, no selly, whether it was intentional or not, following in the footsteps of Barkov, doing something absolutely ridiculous and then not celebrating it at all. I love that from Etu. He was fantastic tonight. My second star is Spencer Knight. Huge bounce back performance, and then in the third period, they were under siege for the second half of that third period. Looked like after the Etu goal, it seemed like Columbus found another life and just would not go away. A goal goes in to make it 4-3 that Spencer really had no chance at, but he from then on he was locked in. Made a bunch of incredible saves. Fantastic performance from him, especially in the third period when you could tell the team had no gas left. Their legs were dead. They're playing the second half of back-to-back, and yesterday was against Boston. Those games are physically taxing, exhausting. They had nothing left, and they needed their goalie to carry them to the finish line. Spencer Knight delivered. First star is Sam Reinhart. This is a record on repeat to start the season. I feel like he's been the first star in every win. He's carrying the team with Barkov and Tkachuk on the shelf temporarily. The offense, the defense, the shorties, the power play, he can do no wrong. The assists. He's playing the best hockey we've seen from him, and that says a lot because last year he was second in the league in goals scored, and it looks like he might be on his way to another season with 50 tucks. He's playing some incredible hockey right now to start the year. So Sam Reinhart's my number 1 star.
Yeah, I also want to give an honorable mention to Nico Mikkola. He got 2 points on tonight, but there was this one penalty kill, especially in the beginning of the third, that him and Forsling were just eating pucks, taking away, giving zero time and space. I think there was one quality chance that Adam Fantilli had, that where he tried spinning around him, broke up the puck, and then was able to recover to close the gap once again, and Spencer Knight there to make the stop. So I thought Nico Mikkola was also outstanding on the night for the Panthers. As far quickly before we sign off here on the night, we're shifting our segments due to the ceremony, but moment where I thought the game was won, because they're so great in the third period, the moment that is when Sam Reinhart scored with less than 2 seconds left in the second period. That was my moment when I thought the game was won for the Panthers, just because that stat. So it's just like, okay, it's most times in the bag. So how about you?
Yeah, so there's two for me, but I'll lean towards one. The easy one to say would be when looked like Columbus had the game tied. The broadcast thought they had the game tied, and it flashed goal across the top of the screen, and it actually changed the score to 4-4. But that puck didn't go in. I felt like the Panthers had it in the bag after that. But there was one particular save from Spencer Knight that I feel like I felt he had the game on lock. There was a point shot. I can't even remember who shot it. It was either Werenski, I believe, or Provorov. But a point shot from the center, and Spencer Knight comes out to the very top of the crease, reaches his glove out around the screen, and just calmly snags that puck and freezes it. And for me, I was like, yep, he's locked in. They're not losing this game. Spencer Knight's locked in. So that's my moment. It was a lot more difficult save than it looked like, but he reaches around two bodies right in front of him at the top of the crease, calmly snags it, kills the play. And for me, it felt very Bobrovsky-like, where he was just ready to settle the game down, slam the door, and he was locked in for the rest of the night.
Yeah, and that's why I thankfully had that podcast after the Buffalo game, just to discuss, let him settle in a little bit for the season before we are quick to just jump ship on him for everything that he has gone through. So thankfully that for him, just a few days in between starts, he was able to forget about that just very quickly and just move on from it. So the Panthers, they finished 500 on this road trip, a very encouraging end after a little bit of a rough start. You know, you got to know how to get through these parts of the season when you deal with injuries to two star players. But the Panthers now go into this homestand for them, 3 games at home, including the Frozen Frenzy game on Tuesday against the Minnesota Wild. It's crazy to think, Jacob, the Panthers are not going to be home much over the next few weeks, as they'll be going on the road in a few, along with the Global Series, and then there's a big gap in between the Global Series and their next home game after. So, and it's going to be a heavy schedule for Saturdays at Bank Arena. Do you have plans on Saturdays? Nope, you don't. Everyone. The Panthers play at night at home for most of November. And starting with this game on Thursday against the Vancouver Canucks, they're winless. They haven't won anything yet. They were the surprise of the NHL last year for the most part. But great signing with Jake DeBrusk, who creates a lot of secondary scoring for Boston last year. And I think that he's going to be one of the top scorers for Vancouver this year. There's still issues in net with injuries to Thatcher Demko. Artur Shilovs is the guy in between the pipes. Dakota Joshua is currently hurt for Vancouver. So this is a little bit of the Panthers are going to get another desperate team starting on Thursday night.
Yep, Vancouver's a good team. They've got some star power on that roster. Pettersson, JT Miller, Quinn Hughes. It's a team that has star power. They're not going to stay bad. Slow starts happen. They're going to snap out of it, and that's a team that has a lot of firepower, can score a lot of goals. And Panthers don't expect Barkov or Tkachuk back for that. So another game where they're going to go in shorthanded and have to play against a fast and heavy Western Conference team. Team they're not super familiar with, haven't played a ton. But that's a team with playoff experience, with playoff talent, with heavy forecheck. That team is tough as nails. And they can score in a lot of ways, especially on the power play. So the Panthers are going to have to be disciplined. Should be a pretty good game. I'm looking forward to that one. And got to take advantage of the few home games you have early in this season. And then we've discussed this in the offseason. Bring me all of the road action early in the season because I'd rather get those games out of the way and have home heavy later on, especially if the Panthers are going to get healthy before that. So take advantage of these few home games we have and perform well on the road. It's shaping up to be a good start for the Panthers, but Vancouver's a tough test, regardless of what the record says.
Yeah, and we will be back with you guys on Thursday night going into Friday. We will not have a show tomorrow. That's why we previewed this game ahead of time for you guys to get an idea of what the Panthers are going into on Thursday. And yeah, let's hope that the Panthers can return home and get these 3 games down right before they hit the road once again, because the road is going to be a very, very familiar scene for them early on in this in this season. But Jacob, I want to thank you so much once again for joining me on another edition of the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast. Tell everybody where they could find you online, my friend.
Yep, you can follow me on X at Jacob Winans 8. And before I sign off, just for you publicly, we are recording this on Tuesday, October 15th at night. So just want to make sure I give you your birthday shout out. Happy birthday, my friend. It is Armando's birthday, so make sure you flood him with your birthday messages. He's never going to say anything about himself, so I'm going to do it for him. But happy birthday, man. Thank you.
And even though it was the birthday today, tonight was all about Johnny Hockey, and I'm very thankful to have spent this night covering this with you, my friend. So thank you once again for joining me, and I will see you next Tuesday as we break down the game against the Minnesota Wild. So thank you once again, my friend.
Yep, looking forward to it. Thanks.
And if you like what you're hearing, please subscribe to the podcast to be notified every single time the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast jumps into your podcast feed. Don't forget to also subscribe to the other shows on the Locked On NHL network, including Locked On NHL, Locked On Fantasy Hockey, Flip Livingstone and Stu Roden, and Locked On NHL Prospects. Thank you once again for making the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast your first listen of the day. So I'm Armando Velez with Jacob Winans, and you've been listening to Locked On Florida Panthers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day.